Brown, Steve Tasker, a One Bills Live Wednesday edition. Joining us on the line right now is ESPN NFL Live analyst. He covers the league. He watches film. He's doing everything. He's actually going to be on a megacast, too, on ESPN+. We'll get into that with him shortly. But it's one Dan Orlovsky joining us on the program. Dan, thanks for making some time for us. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Great to be with you guys. Hope you guys are well also.
Absolutely. Yep. You know, we know how busy. All of us in this end of the business are really, really busy this week. It's a lot of fun to do. Thanks for making some time for us. And we wanted to ask you about, you know, you spoke about Brian Daboll. He's on the list for some head coaching spots that are opening up, obviously. And you had some really strong opinions about what a quality candidate he is, and some of the things that you saw in the Miami game this last week turned you on to that. Why don't you give us a quick synopsis of how good a candidate you think Brian Daboll would be and why?
I think he's at the very top of the candidate list for any team. First of all, I like the fact that he's coached in multiple organizations. I think that when guys have been to a couple different places, you learn. You learn what's good, what's bad. How guys do things differently, what's successful, what isn't, right? So you're equipped with more of the tools that are necessary to go be a good head coach. Second of all, show me what you do through adversity, you know, and I don't want to paint the picture that the Bills offense over the last 2 years previous to the season was quote-unquote adversity, but it wasn't like the ideal settings. You know, there had to be development. There had to be growth. There had to be going through difficult times. And show me how you could take something and turn it into a greater version of itself. And I think that we've watched that play itself out in Buffalo this year. It's a quarterback-driven league. We all know that, especially a young one. I think that the results speak for themselves when it comes to what Josh Allen has accomplished. I would really say over the last 2 seasons, I was one who thought last season was a lot better than people thought. So, and then just the way he sees football is super important. Like when you look at a player and you go, okay, the player is this, can you see football the same way as the player needs you to? You know, like just because you can see football really well for Drew Brees doesn't mean you'll see it really well for Patrick Mahomes. You know, and so how can you see football as good as it needs to be seen for that quarterback skill set? And I think he's displayed that for Josh. So a lot of reasons why, but man, what he did against that Miami defense was out of this world. No one in the NFL. Sean McVay, who I think is one of the best offensive minds in football by far, didn't do that against the Dolphins this year. He got thumped, and Daboll thumped that Dolphins defense. So that was a exclamation point on what's been a great year.
Yeah, and I know you pulled specifically the John Brown touchdown play out, and you tweeted that, and you kind of broke that down as you usually do with clips that you like or that clearly get you excited because you can hear the excitement in your voice when you're breaking it down. It's what you love to do, and the fact that you have a passion for it is great, especially since you've been smart enough to find a way to get paid for it as well. But you know, you're breaking that.
I just never seen it before, man.
Yeah, look,
I had never seen anything like that before.
You're talking about bringing a Smurf receiver in to pick up the blitz for a zero cover blitz.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, the defense, I always say this defense just presents you with problems. What are your answers? And he was like, I got this answer. I know exactly what you guys are going to do to what I do. And so here's this answer. And it wasn't like an answer to protect yourself. It was answer like, here's a kill shot. And I just loved that mindset and then the execution of it. I thought it was absolutely – I had never seen it before, man. I think it was cool.
So would you say, and I know you're giving Daboll a ton of credit here, but it is Josh that adjusts the protection there too. So there's some credit that has to be given to that quarterback. I don't know, Dan, if you're of this opinion, but I think there are still some people that underrate Josh's football acumen and intelligence. I really think that that's something that is still overlooked, and maybe it's partly because his physical skill set is so readily apparent. I still think his football acumen is overlooked. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that'll always be the case, though, because of the physical talent, right? We wow at things. We wow at the things that, as fans, because I'm a fan nowadays, we wow at the things that don't make sense to us. When we watch him play and make some throws or run around, we go, dude, Like, that doesn't even make sense to my brain of how you do that, you know? Like, how can you do that physically? And as a fan, you go, I can't do that. That's why we admire and appreciate. And so we'll always, whereas some of the mental stuff, you know, I have people up, like, oh, that play I posted on today, people hit me up and be like, I do this on Madden. Exactly. Sounds good, you know? So I think that'll always be a underappreciated aspect because he's so physically kind of unique and talented. Patrick Mahomes is the same way. Pat is underappreciated with how smart he is. I remember hearing a story about Josh his rookie year, and I forget who wrote the story, but I remember hearing the story be told on SportsCenter of how he was studying the playbook so much that he was spending time kind of going out into the practice field, running through the offense by himself, you know, like calling plays and anticipating defenses and changing protections. And, you know, like when you've got that work ethic, I had a friend of mine when Josh was coming out of college, I had pointed out some of the things that were like, I don't know how good he is with his protections and this and that. And I had a friend of mine who knew Josh from his past. And he was like, I'm telling you, this guy will be the hardest worker in their building. And he'll obsess over things. And I was like, all right, you know him better than I do. And I think that's kind of what's happened is when you obsess over the intellectual part of quarterbacking, you can get it. You'll understand it. You know, that just takes time. Now you've got that with the physical talent, and that's why he's been in the MVP conversation all year.
We see around the league, you know, all these coaching openings and all of that, and we know how important they are. But we've got an illustration sometimes this year, Dan, in the wrong way. For instance, when Detroit lost 8 of their coaches and couldn't do it, and they absolutely got shellacked. Now you've got a head coach in Cleveland on the eve of the first playoff appearance for that team in decades.
18 years.
And now Kevin Stefanski's got to sit down and let his coaches coach it. What kind of crippling effect could that have on a team? Does Cleveland actually have any kind of chance in this game? I mean, that seems like an almost insurmountable obstacle.
You know, in NFL, there's always a chance. I think it's like as difficult as a team could have. You know, do I want to sit here and tell you this game's over? I do. But my job is to try to figure out what they can do and how they can do it. You know, so I think the biggest thing is it'll show itself in quarters 2, 3, and 4. That first quarter gets scripted. You guys know this. So, like, Stefanski will script that first quarter. Hey, here's the first 15 plays that we're going to run. Your first 3rd and 3, we know what the call is. First 3rd and 10, you know what the call is. But what happens is, as the game goes on, you're looking at your tablet going, okay, what are they doing to us? First 3rd and 3, we called a man beater out of a bunch concept, and they dropped out and played cover 3 and carried a vertical. What do I have to do? What's the next answer, right? And so that starts to show itself in quarters 2, 3, and 4, and I think that's where we'll see is they'll struggle. The two things that stand out in my mind are, you know, I know there's 40 seconds in between every play, but there's not. You know, that play gets done and that clock starts to wind. And 6, 7 seconds go by before you actually get into the huddle. You got like 8 seconds to get the play call in and hope it's the right one as a play caller. So, like, how well does that process work for Cleveland? If I'm Kevin Stefanski, I know that I only have really 15 minutes to impact this football game. That's that first quarter. I'm unloading the bucket. Anything that I have that we haven't shown, whether it's a gimmick or a trick play, it's getting called in that first quarter. Because I think if they can find a way to jump out to a 14-0 lead with doing that, they got a shot. Right? They got a shot to hang on. But that's the only time that Stefanski knows definitively he'll impact that football game. He needs to unload anything that they've got in their repertoire.
Yeah. I mean, we know Alex Van Pelt pretty well from his time here in Buffalo, and we've got faith in that Pittsburgh native going home and making some good calls the rest of the way, but obviously the proof will be in the pudding. The other playoff game, you're going to be part of a ESPN megacast, Dan. This is kind of a cool deal. The Ravens-Titans game, you're going to be on ESPN Plus's megacast, and I guess you're going to be doing some of the same things that they put out on Twitter, right?
Yeah. So it's a little bit of alternative because no commercials, and it's not a traditional broadcast where the play-by-play person tees up the analyst and whatnot.
Right.
We'll talk over plays. We're going to get super deep into the weeds of things. There will be an analytics spin to it because Mina Kimes is part of our NFL Live crew and very into the numbers. So we'll dive into the analytics. Hey, on 3rd and 6 here, it says that, Tennessee's defense plays, 80% middle field open pressure. What does that mean, and what do the Ravens have to do? So we're really diving into some numbers in regards to that stuff, and then we'll obviously be tied into with the Vegas crew and how I didn't know this, but dude, those betting lines literally change by the play, and kind of having those guys be, it's pretty intense. So we've done a couple mock ones on some Monday Night Football things just for us, and it's been a lot of fun. So we're super excited for it, man. It is going to be an absolute blast.
And where can they do that? Where can they find that?
It's on ESPN Plus.
Yep, on ESPN Plus. It'll be live on ESPN Plus when that Sunday game between Baltimore and Tennessee is going on, and it'll be really cool.
Yeah, definitely. It should be interesting because, I know a lot of people like the breakdowns you do on Twitter, so that'll be in a live setting, be even better. Speaking of analytics, I wanted to get your take on this because we haven't talked to you in a while, and I guess the Week 16 game for the Bills against the Patriots sticks out the most. But Sean McDermott has been a coach that I think a lot of people, when he came in the door, was viewed as somewhat conservative. Now here we are in 2020. We get to that Week 16 game, and the Bills have gone for it on 4th down a healthy amount of times this season. Not a lot, but in situations where they've been presented with it, they've gone for it. And that game, Monday night against New England, it's 4th and 5 on their own 35-yard line in the first quarter. And they run the fake punt play in a scoreless game, I think it was.
I think it was scoreless.
And I understand the offense is like a ball of fire now, and that's obviously going to change a head coach's thinking. But Coach McDermott has come completely around to the modern-day NFL and going for it on 4th down, but that in a 0-0 game on his own 35-yard line with his special teams, with a backup safety throwing to another backup DB to get the first down, that just changed my whole complexion of what Sean McDermott is as a head coach in this league right now. I'm just wondering how it grabbed you.
Yeah, I think a couple things came to my mind. First of all, don't tell me what you think of me as a player or a team. Show me. If Sean McDermott totally believes in his football team, not just the offense because it's really good, and not just the defense that if they got a quick change in short field that they'll get off the field with 3 points, but show us. Show us. If you want, coaches are constantly telling players, and I don't know if Sean does this, but I'm playing the assumption game, believe in yourselves. You're good enough. Be aggressive. Let it go. Trust your preparation. So, show us then and stop playing or don't play conservatively. Number two, that's just good coaching when it comes to going into the week and going, grinding on tape and finding ways to impact the game. I remember Peyton Manning said this to me one time. We were watching tape together, and he was pointing the way a team played cover 3 buzz. And he was sitting there with the clicker, and he was like, hey, man, you see how this team's playing cover 3 buzz? He's like, it's up to you to make sure that they know they're not allowed to do that. And I would imagine that they watched New England's defense and or special teams in some capacity and do something, and at some point you go, nope, you're not allowed to do that against us. And so you got to have the courage to call it. You got to have the work ethic to find the opportunity and grind on that tape. And I thought it was a really cool example of just, when good coaching staffs get good players, and both sides see it the same way and trust each other, you're able to do things that you can't without both those pieces in place. And obviously it was a kind of a momentum swinger in that game.
Yeah, absolutely. It was. And what is there a Matt? We've been asking all our guests is what's the matchup on Wild Card Weekend you're looking forward to?
All of them, man. I want to see. I'll go game by game. I think watching Josh Allen's eyes against this Indy defense is super important, and he's got a really good defense, and they're all tied to a string on his eyes. So that's the big matchup that I'm looking forward to. I want to see if Washington's defensive line gets after Tom Brady a little bit. I want to see Bruce Arians adjust. I can't trust that plan against a team like New Orleans front or the Rams' front unless you show me that you'll adjust if you can't block them up and stop pushing the ball downfield. Will Baltimore's defensive backs tackle Derrick Henry? I think that's a big deal. They're going to try to get that run game on those DBs, and especially the corners. Will they tackle them? Obviously, how does Cleveland pull off a miracle? What's the other two games?
The Rams, Seattle.
Jared Goff. Jared Goff is going to have 5 times in this game where he needs to check the ball down to a tailback. He does not do that well. He didn't do it against them the last 2 times they played. If he doesn't do that, they lose. If he does that, they win. And then the other AFC matchup has got to be, use your brain.
It's it's the Bears and Saints.
Oh, Bears and Saints. I want to see, can the Bears move Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn and Akeem Hicks inside? I mean, they can't just put them at defense. The Saints won't allow them just to line up at defensive end and get home. They'll chip them and ton. So how do the Bears adjust that? And then they've got to find some success in pocket passing game. They've had a lot of it outside the pocket with Trubisky here in the last 5 weeks. The Saints won't allow them to do that all game. They're too well coached. So can they have some success in pocket?
Yeah. Dan, we appreciate the time. We look forward to seeing you on that ESPN Plus Megacast for that Ravens-Titans game. We appreciate it. Enjoy the playoffs, man.
Thanks, guys. Really enjoy it. Be well.